Good evening and welcome to Newsnight with Old Man of the Clan, Andrew Mwenda. He is the CEO of The Independent. My name is Charles Odongtho, and this evening we are looking at the pension sector, the social security sector. The government has withdrawn a bill that had become contentious. Andrew Mwenda, you're most welcome.
Thank you.
Now, Andrew, why is NSSF usually a troubled, issue to discuss in this country?
I think because of the politics of Uganda. You see, in this country, there is a way the democratic process has evolved, whereby power has been dispersed among diffuse fragments of the state. You have the IGG, you have PPDA, you have parliament, you have state house, you have the intelligence organizations, you have the press. Then you have contract committees in these ministries.
They call them democratic institutions.
Yes, they call them, you put it in quotes. So each of these institutions has power to stop an award of a tender or a contract for a major business. Once you distribute and disperse power, power needs to be concentrated. When you disperse it, it cannot be able to function. So NSSF has a portfolio of about 3.7 trillion. Yeah. The
hugest in the country.
That's wrong English. You can say the biggest in the country.
Practical English.
Yes. But let me tell you this. The total revenues of the government of Uganda for 2013-2014 are going to be about 8.2 trillion. Right? They had budgeted 8.6 trillion, but there is a shortfall of about 400 billion that is going to happen. So 8.2 trillion. It means that NSSF has almost half of the total tax revenue of Uganda, because remember the budget is additional money from donors. So there is some money from donors. So about half the budget. That is a lot of money in a poor country like this, being in one institution. So every shark, every person has interest in eating it. But equally, those who are not eating have an interest in complaining that somebody is going to steal it, which has paralyzed NSSF. NSSF cannot invest. Imagine, since Jamwa left NSSF 6-7 years ago this year, that's in 2008. NSSF made one investment, and that is in 2012 when they bought shares in Umeme, also under presidential directive. They have been unable to invest. Why can't they invest? Because any attempt by the managers to invest in anything generates such secondary contestations that people will block that investment.
But isn't that a contradiction? Because my discussion and even various discussions with workers' representatives shows that the last 4 years of Richard Byarugaba has seen no scandal, no financial scandal. And the workers are complaining and saying that the reason why we are putting pressure on government to withdraw this bill is because we suspect that there is a wrong hand moving around trying to eat over the workers' money.
First of all, I had problems. I don't think we have the time to discuss the problems of that liberalization strategy that they had adopted.
It's too big to be discussed in 10 minutes.
Yes, although I think the sector must be liberalized. But the way the law had been written was wrong. But two, I have enormous respect and confidence in Richard Byarugaba. But you should remember that since Richard Byarugaba came there, he has been unable to make any investment. Now let me tell you about the Social Security Fund, which is a pension fund. You take long-term deposits from customers, which are savings, and then pay them over a long period of time. If I left university at 22, I get my benefits when I'm 55. So the fund has to play with my money for 33 years. That means the fund has a very long-term obligation to me of 33 years. It must make long-term investments to match its long-term obligations. If you look at the NSSF portfolio mix today, of that 3.7 trillion, right, 2.9 trillion, that's 83%, is held either in fixed deposit accounts, in commercial banks, in government treasury bills and bonds. Yeah. Only 18% is invested in real estate and equity stock as shares on the stock exchange. Let me tell you, if any fund manager of a pension fund anywhere in the world presided of a fund with such a portfolio mix, they would be fired immediately. Why wouldn't we fire those at NSSF? Because the weakness is not on the managers themselves. It is because the political environment in which NSSF managers work make it difficult for them to invest in anything. So it means that their current NSSF portfolio mix is actually wrong for we who are saving. I'll give you an example. In 2011, inflation was 30% in Uganda. Am I right? Yeah, true. NSSF gave us...
after the elections especially. Yes.
NSSF paid us 7% interest rate. That means that was the nominal interest rate. The real interest rate was minus 23%. It means that in 2011, if I had 100 million shillings as purchasing power in NSSF at the end of 2011, I now had fallen to 77. No, 77.
Now,
So the purchasing power of my savings had fallen from 100 million, 77 million.
now look at this. And
Actually, no, the rate mathematics to 85 million, because remember, I had an interest rate of 7%. So my decline, yes, my decline was 23%. So it is 77 million is what I had in my savings, down from 100 million.
Let's go to the issue of maybe influence peddling or, suspicions of corruption. One of the things that the workers have put pressure on government for is the fact that, within the process of making this law, the workers are saying, you have not yet put a policy in this country for 50 years, for the last 50 years in this country. We don't have a policy. How can you then bring a law and you are rushing it, and it is very controversial, concerning workers' savings for their life when they are about to die, and you just want to rush the law like that? Isn't that a genuine,
No. First
complaint?
of all, let me come to the workers. Who are these workers who are complaining? Let me
You and I are inclusive. My money is there.
Let me tell you this. Let me tell you this. The people raising these issues are members of trade unions.
Yes.
The total number of unionized workers who subscribe to NSSF constitute 11%. What?
True.
11% of the total subscriber base.
Yeah.
And they contribute only 5% of the actual portfolio. It means that people who hold only 5% of the portfolio of NSSF are influencing 100% of its policy. Let me tell you, in any company, no one would accept that. President Yoweri Museveni is the one who has encouraged this nonsense. Most workers in Uganda are not unionized. We also have a voice. But because we lack organization, we have been unable to aggregate our concerns and place them on the national political agenda. The trade unions and their interest in NSSF and their demands upon NSSF are detrimental to the interests of us, the other people who are saving, because they do not even understand what a pension fund should do. I'll give you an example.
There are a number of them who understand.
Let me give you an example. The trade unions opposed NSSF buying shares in Umeme. Now let me reveal something. I was deeply involved in getting authority for NSSF to buy these shares in Umeme. Government of Uganda, in its concession with Umeme, gives Umeme a guaranteed rate of return of 19% on the dollar. That's about 30% of the Uganda shilling. NSSF gets, on its fixed deposit accounts, gets 14% or 15%. Why would you refuse NSSF to invest in Umeme, which is a long-term investment that is able to match NSSF long-term obligations with its long-term investment?
Andrew, I know that is your comfortable area when you go into Umeme and that discussion. But let's come back, because for me, I want to first keep us on the issue of this example. I want to show you how the issue of corruption and the suspicion around it, which for me, reading this and following this, makes me think that their complaint is genuine. For example, in this push for the new law, there is a gentleman who I will not name in Ministry of Finance, who sits on the, what is it called? The Retirement Benefits Authority. That was created about 2 or 3 years ago, or last year. Now, this same person is involved in trying to make sure that NSSF is disbundled, is liberalized. And the money there we are talking about, you have said it yourself, is huge, 3.7 trillion. Why shouldn't I, the owner of the money, be suspicious?
I think that's a petty point. It's a very, very
it's not petty. A wrong process does not legitimize
do you know why?
A good end.
Well, I do not know whether the United States or the United Kingdom were created through a Christian process. Most states are created through war. Most states are created through so many acts that may not be moral. So the idea...
the end justifies the means.
No, it's not that. It's simply the idea that the process must be perfect. First of all, as Karl Popper said, human society is inherently imperfect, and a perfect society is impossible to create. So we have to content ourselves with an imperfect society, which is capable of infinite improvement. We can always make improvements. There is not going to be one tender in NSSF, one action of the government of Uganda that is going to be perfect, because I, Andrew Mwenda, I'm not perfect. Every day I make mistakes. Even when I was driving coming here, I made a mistake. Even when I'm speaking, I'm going to make even you said hugest, right? So mistakes happen. Now, to say that NSSF must be perfect for it to negotiate a deal is wrong. Now, that's one. Two, I should tell you that theoretically, I think that NSF should remain in the hands of, or the under supervision of government, of the state. But practically, given the specific context of Uganda, you need to disband NSSF. Why? Because to get that 3.7 billion to be invested wisely, you need to remove, trillion rather, the 3.7 trillion, 3,700 billion. You need to remove the voice of tomato vendors, fishmongers, pickpockets, tax touts, and street cleaners to decide NSSF investment
only
policy.
if they are not putting their money there. Because if I'm putting my money there, however little,
so let me ask you: don't you bank with Crane Bank? Don't you bank with Crane Bank and Barclays Bank?
No, I don't bank with Crane Bank and Barclays Bank. I bank with DFCU and Centenary.
So whenever DFCU is going to invest or give Andrew Mwenda a loan, do they consult you?
Well,
do they consult Parliament?
Not at all.
Don't you have your money there?
They are a private entity.
Exactly. So let us have private entities.
For all of us workers, our money is there, and we are 570, and you have to listen to our voice.
Yes, I agree with you. So what we need to do is to transfer the funds of NSSF and let us. Me, I'm a saver. You are also a saver.
I am a saver.
Take your money to a private.
Years now.
Take your money to a private pension fund. And let the private pension fund decide for you.
But the process should be
rather than have the Ugandan Parliament.
The process should be transparent, and I, as a stakeholder, should agree with it.
The issue here, by the way, Charles, is not even transparency. However much you try to make transparency on anything, the Ugandan political process is so paralyzed and gridlocked that people will quarrel and contest over any form of reform. So you want to reform NSSF, I want government to get out of NSSF, let us have private pension funds, let us all choose. I want you to choose whether to put your money in a Ukraine pension fund, or in Barclays pension fund, or in a DFCU pension fund. Then, once you have a free choice, right now I'm mandated by law to put my money in NSSF. Whether they screw up or they don't, I have to put it there. I want to have a choice to save with the institution that I trust. I don't trust NSSF.
Well, that was Andrew Mwenda, and I know that this is a really touchy issue, and I know for sure we shall be coming back sooner than later to continue with that discussion as new information emerges. That was Newsnight.